I'm sitting here with the Gemara Shabbos Daf Yud Zayin. So the 18 things Shemay Nasa Davar goes for Beit Bayayim. So what's Beit Bayayim? So the Gemara talks about it. So one of the questions that the Gemara is discussing over here is Habaytzer Lagas, Shamim and Mahuchsher, Hillel and Meloyachsher. And then the Gemara goes right. Tamle Hillel Shamim Pnema Baytzer Matar Meiskim Matar Melaim Takni Tani Gizrani Tuma Afala Masika. Not to Cherev Besam Medrash. Amra Nichnas Yikonis Vayetze Al Yetze Vayisa Yom Hillel. Cup of Yeshiv Lefnei Shamai Kechem Natalmidim Vayakasha Yisrael Kiem Shanas Baya Egel. Because of Shamai Vahillel, they couldn't that fine. What's the comparison to the Egel? That's a Shara Nakuda, because that was real Avodah Zarah. What was happening here, where they were just trying to figure out. It seemed like it was a very heated machlokes on learning that just got a shtickle out of control, or it was trying to get out of control. But I think that there's a very stark Nakuda that some people will not be aimed on. But he says he was not so cherv b'smedrash, and he stuck a sword in the mismedrash, which is very reminiscent of what Chizkiyahu HaMelech did by when Sancherib was waging a war against Klal Yisrael. And over there, the Gemara says in Sanhedrin Daf Tzadi Daled that Shaloi Haya Tinik V'Tinaikis Badkum Mitan Vad Beersheva. They checked throughout the entirety of Eretz Yisrael, and they did not find a child that was not perfectly fluent in all the intricacies of Hilchos Tumah V'Tara. Over here, it's also machlokes Tumah V'Tara, what they're discussing here. But the Nakuda is, what's this business of Hanichnas Yikones Vayetze Al Yetze? So Rashi says the reason is because Lefisha Hayuret and Lamed B'Minyan. When you make a takana, it has to be with a minyan. When you're telling Avek Halach, it has to be with a minyan. The same way we know that the Gemara says that this, if you want to be mevatel halacha, you want to be mevatel a minyan. Let's say, for example, we shtel the veka halacha. We had 30 Talmidei Chacham sitting in the room that came to the consensus that we're going to do ABC. Now, a few years later, let's say they have 32 Chachamim that take a consensus and they want to be mevatel this halacha that we created. So that's why you need to have the minions. They could be mevatel because they have a majority over that amount. That's why they do that. There is a place in the Gemara, if I'm not mistaken, it's the Gemara Brachos, that minyan refers to age, but that's not the pashtus of the Gemara that we're talking about, definitely not over here. So again, what's this Hanichnas Yikones Vayetze Al Yetze? So obviously they don't want to lose their people, because if people are going to run out, then, if let's say Shammai is going to have 100 people and Hillel is going to have 80 people and people are going to leave, then, the halacha won't be able to be like Shammai. Depends who makes it to the door in a certain item. It depends who's going to make it to the door first. That's who the halacha is not going to be like. But I think it's I think very interesting. Mahalach could be like this. The Mishnah says in Ovis that kol machlokes lishaim shamayim sefer lishaim. What's a machlokes lishaim shamayim? So machlokes Shammai and Hillel, and machlokes that's ein lishaim shamayim machlokes karech v'adasai. So first of all, it has to be that the machlokes l'shem shamayim. It's a very big yisoid from Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld that kanos and these types of things is the only thing that starts off l'shem shamayim, but eventually turns out not until l'shem shamayim. It's exactly the opposite of mitech shalei l'shma bal l'shma. It's mitech l'shma, and it ends up a lot of times being shalei l'shma. But weiter sefer l'eskayim means it will be contained, meaning it won't blow out of proportion. A lot of times you could have machlokes, my Rav holds like this, your Rav holds like that, your Rav is a shegitz. But sefer l'skayim means you want to know if it's a real machlokes l'shem shamayim, is that we're still in it l'shem shamayim, and it wasn't blown out of proportion. So they wanted everyone to stay in the Bismadrash because it was a very intense situation. It was kasha l'Yisrael kiem shanas b'ya egel. The egel was taka things that got blown out of proportion. They saw where it was headed. They wanted to make sure it wasn't going to get blown out of proportion. Mela, that's why they said, they didn't want anyone to leave, because if people would leave, then they can spread. They'll say, this is what happened in this medrash, and they don't want people talking about it. They wanted to keep it. What goes on in the medrash stays in the medrash.